Hi, I am Dr. Sai Prasad Reddy. Welcome to the subject software testing. Today we are going to discuss about the interview questions and the frequently asked questions on the topic testing principles. So welcome to session 11 of interview questions and FAQs. Now, so here these are the 4 interview questions. The majority of the cases these questions will be asked in the interview. These questions will be asked for freshers as well as the experienced people, those who are claiming the experience from 0 to 4 years. See, let's look into this interview questions. What are different testing principles? Explain about exhaustive testing. Explain about early testing. Explain about pesticide paradox. So these questions will be repeatedly asked in interview. Now, so first we will discuss about different testing principles. So there are 7 testing principles. We will discuss each and every testing principle. The principle 1, testing shows presence of defects. That means the testing activities will always show that there are defects. Testing activity will always tries to find the defects in the project, but the testing activity will never says there are no defects, and the testing activity will never proves there are no defects in the project. This is the testing principle 1. So testing shows the presence of defects. And the second thing is exhaustive testing is impossible and impractical. What it mean? What do you mean with the exhaustive testing? Interview question. So exhaustive testing is nothing but testing all the combinations of inputs and preconditions. That means, for example, if there is one functionality, say there is a login functionality. So, in order to test this login functionality completely, you have to test that particular login functionality by using all the combinations of inputs. Say, for example, what are all the combinations of inputs for testing the login functionality? 1. What are the main fields? User ID, password. So first we have to test with valid user ID and valid password, and the second combination of the inputs is valid user ID and invalid password. Third combination is invalid user ID and valid password, and the fourth combination is invalid user ID and invalid password. So that means these are the different combinations of inputs. So these user ID and password are the inputs to test login functionality, right? So like this, in one project there will be some hundreds of functionalities. You have to test all these functionalities by using all combinations of inputs and preconditions for that particular functionality. Is it possible? No, it is impossible, and of course impractical. Practically it is not possible. So this is exhaustive testing. Exhaustive testing is nothing but testing all the functionalities by using all the combinations of inputs and preconditions. Here the combinations of inputs means with respect to valid and invalid, right? This is exhaustive testing. This exhaustive testing is not possible, and some trivial cases this exhaustive testing may be possible. Predominantly 99.9% of the cases exhaustive testing is impossible and impractical. And the third is early testing. What do you mean with early testing? That means when the testing activities should start in the project from the early stage of the project. Which is the early stage of the project in the software development lifecycle? Requirements phase. That means the software test engineers has to start their testing activities at the requirement phase itself. That is the main. So what is the use of doing this early testing? You can avoid defect multiplication. If you are able to find the defects at the early stage, then the defect multiplication, that means adding of the defects to the next phases in the software development life cycle, will be very less. Right? That is called early testing. And the fourth principle, defect clustering. What it means? See, generally, if you take any project, that the project will be divided into modules. So, what do you mean with a module? Module is nothing but a cluster. If you take any, for example, for your better understanding, I am taking this example. If you take any city, the city is a combination of different areas. For example, Ramanagar, Krishnanagar, Ashoknagar, right? Like this, Sainagar. So there may be different parts, areas in the city. In the same way, in the same fashion, in the software project, the entire project will be divided into different areas. These areas are called clusters, or these areas are called modules. That means each and every project will contain the number of modules. Here some modules may be a big modules, some modules may be a small modules. Now, coming into the defect clustering. What do you mean by the defect clustering? A small number of modules in a project contains more number of defects discovered during the pre-release testing, or shows the most operational failures in the small modules. So you have to concentrate more on the small number of modules also. This is called a defect clustering. Clear? The next, pesticide paradox. What it means? Just before going into this pesticide paradox context, that topic, I will take one example for your better understanding. Say for example, one farmer is having a 10 acres of land. If this farmer uses the same fertilizers years and years, obviously the output of the crop will decrease. You will not have the more productivity. That is called pesticide paradox. Here, see, in order to test the different functionalities in software by the software test engineers, what they are supposed to do? They have to prepare the test cases. After preparing the test cases, they have to execute those test cases. By executing the test cases, you will find number of defects. Now, if the same software test engineer uses the same test cases for testing again and again, there will be no chance for finding the new defects. Yes or no? For example, for one particular functionality, for example, for login functionality, software test engineer has designed, say, 10 test cases. Those will be functional testing test cases, security testing test cases, or regression testing, whichever that may be, GUI test cases may be there, right? So, if there are 10 test cases for the login functionality, just I am taking example for our better understanding, only example. If the same 10 test cases are executed again and again, initially you may find new defects. Initially you may find more number of defects. Second time you will find less number of defects and less number of new bugs. So if you are repeating the same test cases again and again, there is no use, because you will not find any new bugs or any new defects. In order to find the new bugs or in order to find the new defects, what you are supposed to do? You have to modify the particular test cases. If and only if you modify this new, if and only if you modify the test cases, then only there will be a chance for finding new defects. Right? This is called pesticide paradox. If the same test cases are repeated over and over again, eventually the same set of test cases will no longer find any new bugs. In order to overcome this pesticide paradox, what you are supposed to do? You have to modify, you have to revise the test cases regularly. This is very, very, very important testing principle. In interview, they will ask you about that pesticide paradox. Next, testing is a context dependent. What it means? As a software test engineer, you are supposed to test all the projects with the different domains. Say, for example, software test engineers are supposed to test all the projects irrespective of the domain, maybe a banking projects, or maybe a telecom projects, or maybe insurance projects, or maybe retail projects, or maybe say for example utility projects, or maybe healthcare projects. These are all the different domains, right? Or logistic projects. So all these projects cannot be tested in the same way, in the same manner, depending upon that particular project, depending upon that particular domain, depending upon that particular different criteria. The software test engineer has to do the testing in a different way, right? This is called context dependent. So testing is done in a different contexts. The different applications will be tested in a different way. This is called testing is context dependent. And the last one is absence of errors fallacy. This is also very important principle. What it means? What is the meaning of this absence of errors fallacy? See, for example, you are the software test engineer. You are testing the application. In the day one, you found 20 defects. Say example, 20 defects. You have found 20 defects. As soon as finding the defects, immediately you have reported those defects to the development team. What the developers are supposed to do? They have to resolve those defects. They have to rectify those defects. They have to fix those defects. Yes or no? Yes or no? If and only if the reported defects are fixed, then only there will be no defects in the project. Even after reporting the defects by the software test engineers, if the concerned development team has not fixed the defects, then it will not help for usage of this application, and it will not fulfill, it will not satisfy the customer or the client expectations. If and only if the reported defects are fixed properly, then only the system will be usable, and then only the system is project, can be released to the client. This is called absence of errors fallacy. So what is the absence of errors fallacy? Finding and fixing the defects does not help if the system built is unstable and it does not fulfill the user needs and expectations. See, that means even apart from this fixing the defects, the system should be usable. If the system is unusable, you cannot do anything. So that means finding and fixing that fix only is not important. It will not help if the system is unusable. So that means finding the defects, reporting the defects, fixing the defects is as important as the system should be in a usable condition. Yes or no? So finding and fixing the defects does not help if the system built is unusable. So how the system should be built? The system should be built in such a way that it should be usable and it should fulfill the client or user needs or the client expectations or the customer expectations. This is absence of errors fallacy. Right? These are the 7 testing principles. Now, we will go to this multiple choice questions. These questions will help you more in screening test, technical screening test. Many of the companies, as you know very well, many of the companies nowadays, they are conducting the technical screening test. So if you are attending for the software test engineer job, they will conduct the technical screening test only on the testing. So there you will have only the multiple choice questions. You have to choose the appropriate options. There will be 4 options, A, B, C, D. So you have to choose the appropriate option. Right? These questions are very important. So in the majority of the cases, almost all in all the software companies which are conducting the screening test for the software test engineer's position, these questions will be repeated. Now, which of the following statements contradict the general principles of testing? Here you have to understand the question. Contradict. What do you mean by contradiction? That is opposing. Oppose. Opposite. Oppose. So which of the following statements contradict the general principles of testing? Testing is better if it starts at the beginning of the project. If a new defects are to be found, we should run the same test set for more often. How testing is done is based on the situation in a particular project. More defects are found in a small subset of a systems module. Which is the opposite for the testing principle? See, first one, testing is better if it starts at the beginning of the project. That is early testing. That is also correct. There is no contradiction. Second, if new defects are to be found, we should run the same test set more often. This is contradictory, because if and only if the test sets are modified, then only there is a possibility of finding the new defect. This is the contradict statement. Yes or no? Yeah. So, and option C, how testing is done is based on the situation in a particular project. That is, testing is context dependent. More defects are found in a small subset of a systems module. Defect clustering. So option B is correct one. Right? That is pesticide paradox. Second, which of the following statements are testing general principles? Exhaustive testing is impossible. The defects found during the pre-release tests or the operation failures are uniformly distributed across the system software modules. Testing can show the presence of defects but cannot demonstrate their absence. Testing is a context independent. Yeah. Which of the following statements are correct? Exhaustive testing is impossible. That is also correct. And testing can show the presence of defects but cannot demonstrate their absence. That is also correct. Second option and fourth option are wrong. Why it is wrong? What is the fourth option? Testing is context independent. It is a wrong statement. What is the correct statement? Testing is context dependent. Right? And obviously the second option is also wrong, because the defects will not be uniformly distributed across all the system modules in the project. Different modules will have the different number of defects. Okay? Yeah. So first option and the second option, third option are correct. Right? Next. What is exhaustive testing? We have already discussed it. So exhaustive testing, when all the software test engineers are exhaustive, then is it called exhaustive testing? When all planned tests have been executed, is this exhaustive testing? Testing all the combinations of inputs and preconditions. Is this exhaustive testing? None of them. What is exhaustive testing? Exhaustive testing is nothing but testing the functionalities in the application by using all the combinations of inputs and preconditions. This is exhaustive testing, right? So option C is correct. Next. Which of the following describes the pesticide paradox principle? Just this is very simple. So if the same tests are repeated over and over again, eventually the same set of test cases will no longer find any new bugs. This is the correct option. Testing everything is not feasible except for trivial conditions. That is, second option is for exhaustive testing, but he is asking the pesticide paradox. A small number of modules contains most number of defects discovered during the pre-release testing or show the most of the operational failures. Yeah, this is defect testing. Testing can show the presence of the defects, but it will never prove that there are no defects. So, which option is correct one in this one? So, option A is correct option, right? Yeah. So, please subscribe my channel, share my videos to all the students community, students groups who are searching for the job in the IT industry for the software test engineer's position. Please like my sessions and please don't forget to raise your comments in the comment box. Thank you very much.